Right. So thank you very much for joining us. My name is Grace Nzula. I'm a HR consultant and trainer with Atara Solutions. And welcome to Get It Right with Atara Solutions. Now, Get It Right with Atara Solutions is a webinar series that seeks to demystify issues in employment and entrepreneurship. We do this every Tuesday from 8 p.m. and we discuss different things that affect both employers and employees and just people technically, because most employers and employees are human beings. So we technically demystify issues in the workplace. And part of those issues has been mental wellness. It has been, last week we were discussing customers. The other week we were discussing, we have quite a number of different discussions. And these discussions are actually available on our YouTube channel. So if you're joining us for the first time, you can always find the recordings on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is Get It Right with Atara Solutions. We're actually live on YouTube, and for the people who are following us on YouTube, you can actually get to see what we are up to. Yeah, so I was giving Catherine a few minutes to sort herself. Now, my name is Grace Nzula. I'm a HR consultant with Atara Solutions. Atara Solutions is a HR consulting and training firm. We offer 4 services. We offer HR manager outsourced for those organizations that are not able to have a full-time HR professional. We offer HR consulting for those who need HR consultants. Are you looking to carry out a HR audit? Are you looking to improve your policies? Are you looking to improve your documentation, technically your contracts? Are you looking to do job evaluations, among other consultancy assignments that we've undertaken? We also do learning and development. I think that is what we are mostly known for. We also do a recruitment. So if you're looking for middle-level manager and top-level managers, complete with boards, then you can always get in touch with us and we'll be able to support you on that. Now, Get It Right with Atara Solutions, like I've said, is a webinar series that seeks to demystify issues in employment and entrepreneurship. And we have a number of organizations that we are able to partner with to bring this to you. This list was meant to be longer, but unfortunately, we were not able to update it. But I'll just give mentions to those who have partnered with us recently. So we have Nile Front Cottages. Nile Front Cottages is a hotel located in Jinja in Uganda. Now, this is one of the most beautiful places I have been to. The sunset and the sunrise. Can you imagine a place where you turn like this, you're able to watch a sunset, you turn the other side, you are able to watch a sunrise. It is such an amazing place. And then it is right at the shores of Lake Victoria, and 2 minutes away is where Lake Victoria meets River Nile. So for those of you who are fans of fish, you can actually get your fish fished and cooked for you right there. So it's such an amazing place that you need to visit. For the Ugandans in the house, if you have not been to Nile Front Cottages in Jinja, then you're missing out. Again, they're the same people who manage the Skia restaurant in Jinja, which is a restaurant whose service is by those with hearing impairment. It's such a beautiful place to go. They have amazing ice cream and cookies right in the city of Jinja. And then we have Elsamere. Elsamere is located in Naivasha. Elsamere is a lodge which has, it's such a beautiful place. It's such a serene place. If you're looking to go for vacation, solocation, conferences, they have set up a new conference hall. It is a nice place if you want to just reflect and just have a time of your life. It is a nice place. You can do a day visit where you can visit their museum. Then from the museum, you can also visit, they have an education center about animals and birds and all that. As in, it's a place that you'll be entertained throughout the day. It is such a beautiful place to go to. And all the rooms, I must point this out, are actually facing the lake. So from your room on your bed, you can actually draw the curtains and your view will be the lake. Can you imagine that? And then we have Profiles International. Profiles International are the only people who are certified to offer Genos Emotional Intelligence Coach. I am finishing my course on Genos Emotional Intelligence Coaching. I will let you know, but it's such an amazing session. If you are passionate about emotional intelligence, I urge you to take on this course. It is such an eye-opening course, and it takes you to really reflect and manage your people better, manage yourself better, manage your families better. It is an awesome course. We have Steadfast Quality Solutions. Now, Steadfast Quality Solutions are our partners in Kampala. Steadfast Quality Solutions is an organization led by my good friend Herbert Zake. Herbert Zake is a certified Gallup strength coach, and he has coached over 500 executives. So if you're looking for a coach for yourself and your people, please get in touch with Herbert Zake. You can contact me, and I'll be able to send you his number, and you can actually get your coaching done. Now, again, Steadfast Quality Solutions offer board trainings. So if you're looking to do board evaluations, board trainings for your board of directors, then please get in touch with Steadfast Quality Solutions. We have K-Square HR Services. K-Square HR Services are our partners in Kigali, Rwanda. If you're looking for HR consulting firms in Kigali, please get in touch with K-Square HR Services. They'll be able to work with you. They'll be able to guide you, and they'll be able to support you. They are organizing a training. I think they have a training coming up down in Rwanda, Kigali. Then we have Labor Planet. Labor Planet do labor outsourcing. So if you have labor outsourcing service needs, then you can reach out to Labor Outsourcing. We have Kapula Mintito, we have Panessa Training Institute, and we have Weekly. We also have AAR Insurance. We have Port Saco, and also we have Hotel Sapphire down in Mombasa, and I think we'll feature them next week. Now, I want to welcome you to this amazing Africa Human Resource Summit happening in Kigali, Rwanda on the 22nd of November, or rather 20th to 22nd of November. This is going to be taking place in Kigali, Rwanda. Please come. Come and engage with the fellow Africans. The speakers are from all over Africa. The attendees are from all over Africa. It is an opportunity to interact with other HRs in Africa, an opportunity to interact with other business and business leaders from all over Africa. Please come one and come all. For IHRM members, you get a discounted rate of $500. And for non-members, it's $700. Please come. Join us for this amazing conference. On Friday, for the men on the call, on Friday, Profiles International is hosting Chill and Connect. This is an amazing session, and that will be for men. It is only going for 3,000 bob on Friday at Capitol Club. This is an invitation to all the men on the call, especially those in Nairobi. We have speakers like Alex Nyaga, Mwenda Intumbiri, the MC is Lucas Maraga. It is going to be an amazing session. It's going to prepare you for leadership and your next growth opportunities. So men in the house, please take advantage. Join fellow men on Friday at Capitol Club for an amazing session about leadership and how men can lead with mindfulness and wisdom. Karibuni sana. For only 3,000 bob at Capitol Club, you will get a treat for that. So allow me to also introduce Catherine Sidandi, who is my co-host. She's our sign language interpreter. I have also seen Richard. Richard, I think he still has his phone off, but I'm sure he'll come. So Richard is also my co-host. At this point in time, allow us to get into the conversation of today. Hi, Richard, you can say hello.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I hope you've had a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Richard. So at this point in time, allow us to introduce Nancy. Nancy Kabiru is not new to this webinar. She's been with us severally, I think, since season 1. And Nancy is a psychologist. She's a coach as well. She does quite a number of things, but she's also my personal therapist. So Nancy is our speaker today. She's the CEO at Hisia Consultants, Psychology Consultants, and she's an amazing person. Karibu sana, Nancy.
Asante sana, Grace. Hi, everybody, and welcome to this conversation where we are addressing a heavy topic that is suicide. September is Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. So the purpose of the discussion today is to bring into your conscious or your awareness what leads to suicidality, because it is becoming common in our society. When you look at statistics, it says that we have 4 people in Kenya dying by suicide every day. You know, that is huge. In the world, we have over 1 million people who die by suicide every day. So when you think about that, and then you still find out that it is the leading cause of death among the top 3 leading cause of death, suicidality. And that suicidality or suicide is dying by one's own doing, okay? So the person decides to kill themselves because of probably the agony they are going through. So as a society, this is indeed a crisis. Being a mental health practitioner, I see a lot of cases of people coming at the brink of tipping over. And if these issues are arrested early, then we wouldn't have to mourn or to lose productive members of the society, a child, a brother, a mother, a father, a friend. Because I know in one way or another, most of us have been victims of a loss by suicide. Okay? So let's start from the top. What do we mean by fixing the breaking point to suicide? It is your personal responsibility and my personal responsibility to take up and to understand what would lead there, so that you don't end up saying, I would have done more. I wish I knew. What did I miss out? Living with that guilt and going through grief. It's usually complicated, especially when you have lost somebody close to you. So when you think about a chain, when you're thinking about tying things together as a society, we are looped together. The strength of that looping is you will tell by the weakest link on that chain. So your productivity is measured by the weakest link. So if your weakest link is somebody who has been struggling with mental health challenges, somebody who has had issues with keeping a job, who has had multiple failed relationships, who has had a chronic illness diagnosis and they don't know what to do with it, or somebody who had attained success and then all of a sudden, like when we had Maandamano, their properties have been put on fire, they end up in a situation where they're unable to cope. So we've talked about stress and the different forms of stress, but in today's discussion, I want to really focus on the crisis that leads to suicidality. Because if we are able to pick the crisis early enough, then we are able to address this topic. Grace, my PowerPoint is not moving. Oh, there. So when you look at suicide, it happens in, when you think about suicide, it happens in a triad. With mental health, we look at 3 things: your thoughts, your behavior, and then your actions and your feelings. Okay? Your thoughts, behavior, and feelings. Behavior is action. So similarly, also with suicide, it happens in a triad of ways. There is somebody who wishes to die and has a voiced out wish or an internalized wish. There is somebody who wishes to kill, and as they kill, they plan, I'm also going to end my life. And there is somebody who wishes to be killed. I'm sure you've heard of people saying, somebody walked onto the road as I was driving, like they wanted me to run over them. That is someone who has a wish to be killed, right? Or someone got into a fight, attacked me. There was an intention to kill. So this is the suicide triad. We can move to the next one. And suicidality has symptoms that lead an individual to that situation. And those symptoms would be that person emotional functioning. Remember, with mental health, we look at emotion. That person emotional functioning, being in a state of distress. Distress means it has really been pushed to the maximum of one's ability to deal with. So this distress could be, you will realize that you're having issues with your memory. You will realize that you're having issues with relationship. What could lead one to emotional distress? This could be termination at work, okay? Could be rejection in a relationship or in a family, could be workplace toxicity. It could be anger, fear, guilt, all those situations making one go through emotional distress. The second symptom is when someone has physical distress. And physical distress is easy to cite because it has an interference with the person's physical being. So that is your sleep, the way you feel about your body, hormonal imbalances, could be fatigue, all those leading to physical distress because you have those internal functioning. Then you have cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions happen when you are experiencing memory loss, when you are not able to finish a job, or you start something and you're not able to complete it, or you're not even motivated to do something or to what runs your daily life. So that's the third one. And the fourth one, a precipitating or a symptom, is someone's behavior. When the behavior changes, what is the behavior change? It is a permanent, uh, different outlook of how you used to function, right? So this could be, you could be predictable before, and now, because of the problems or challenges you're going through, you're unable to deliver. You are unpredictable, or you are behaving in a way that people around you do feel concerned for you, and they do feel that you really need to be given attention. So those are the reasons or the symptoms for suicidality. Then, once you have had that, then you will go through something we call crisis. Now, crisis can be situational, it can be cultural or societal, or it can be due to a maturational challenge. So when you think about that, what I want you to understand here is there are situations that can meet you that are traumatic, that even with your own ability, you feel incapable of addressing. And that is where you should reach out to a friend, you should reach out for medical support, you should reach out for psychological support, you should ask if you feel you don't have the resources. You should ask, what do I do with this? And maybe somebody experienced will give you the processes rather than sitting with it. Because these situational crises, when they are multiple, they break your spirit as a person. The second one is the cultural or societal crisis. We have experienced that with the Gen Z movement recently, because traditional way of doing things is no longer serving the society. So that being the case, you find that there will be an outcry, even from an individual perspective, that forces there to be a change. So cultural or societal. Maturation is based on the developmental milestones that you should have achieved by the age you are at, or based on your training or skill set, and so on and so forth. So if you feel that you're stagnating, that could be as a result of a crisis in the maturation stage, all right? So all these present a good area to explore the risk of suicidality. So I know most of the people attending this session are HRs, and you deal with, handling the human aspect at the employment or at work. And here, the human aspect, you do test or you check somebody's qualification or somebody's ability, someone's experience, and so on and so forth. So should somebody's CV have more than what they are able to present, it tells you that there is a gap right there. If you're a parent and you have probably as a young person who is almost leaving the nest, and they are unable to form relationship and to be independent, that would automatically indicate that they are stagnated at one stage or in their maturation part. If you're in a relationship, married or dating, and you realize maybe your partner is struggling or is not able to deliver, or the maturity level you feel the person should have, they don't have it, it could indicate that they are struggling with a maturation process. And these are easy to deal with because in therapy, we can help one address that and pick themselves from that point, So instead of, brushing it over and saying, I'll not talk about it, you don't have time, you're not going to invest, or you're not going to support this person. Remember, when they go on in life with a pile up of failures, it will affect you at one point. And we don't want to say we should have done something while we missed to pick up the signs. So understanding that there are those stages of a crisis, then it tells you what you need to look out for at this point. And when someone is going through a crisis, what can tell you that they're actually in one? You will notice that they have a disrupted balance, or even if it is you who is going through such a situation, you can tell you have a disrupted balance. The way you used to function and feel productive and relate with people and probably even plan for the future, all those seem to be webbed together and there is a disruption. The second thing, so here, what do you look out for? Organization, someone's tidiness, planning and hope for the future, or, the relationships they've been able to form, an investment in that. The next one is the vulnerable state. So they move from being disrupted to feeling vulnerable. And vulnerable can be verbalized or not verbalized. You can observe someone's demeanor, they seem withheld or withdrawn. They are isolating, If it is expressed, they could be talking of, no hope, doom, anger, aggression. This tells you that they're in the second stage of vulnerability. So we need to taper them back to the disrupted balance and to functioning. Then the third one is where you have active crisis. Remember that triad I talked about, where the suicidality has wish to die, wish to kill, and wish to be killed. In the active crisis, the behavior would have changed, where we talked about the symptoms. So there's a behavioral change, and this person is now being reckless. Okay? If it is you end up asking yourself the next day, what did I do? Why did I get in that situation? Was it necessary? Or sometimes you don't even have the ability to introject. So active crisis, you find an individual has already bought the products that would facilitate or aid them killing themselves. You will find that the individual is in a risky behavior where they probably will be near high balconies that have no protection, and so on and so forth. We do know of those risky things, driving aggression in the bar or with friends, fighting with family. You will notice that the person has injuries because maybe they intentionally, tripped so that they get injured, or because of the hope or the wish to die. They hope that, that would happen. This tells you the person is in an active crisis. A lot of parents, when you're raising teenagers, and even for some of us going through teenagehood, we ended up with injuries. Teenagers do self-harm a lot. They self-harm when they don't have the capacity to deal with a confronting issue. So in the active crisis, the person's capacity to deal with the confronting issues is diminished. So they will try to numb their emotion because they are going through emotional distress. They will try to numb their thoughts because they have those interfered memories. They will try to gain courage so that they can address whatever they feel is pending within their own limits. Now, because we are talking about fixing this, these are some of the things to look out for. Maybe you can also do a survey to explore whether you have been a victim of these stages of crisis and where it led you. So at this juncture, I want to invite Grace to run the poll. Grace, if you can run the poll.
I'm trying to get where I ran the polls from.
That's
okay, here we go. There you go.
All right, thank you. So I will invite your participation on the poll that is on the screen because it will give us data. Awesome. I can already see people taking it up. So there are 6 questions that are not so hard to understand. So try and participate in it so that it gives us a view of your understanding and probably where you are when we are looking at managing crisis and fixing the breaking point, whether for someone close to you, someone known to you, or even if you have been, if you have struggled with it. So we appreciate your participation. Grace, is it still on my screen? Paul has disappeared.
Yes, it is still on. Question 1 and 2. We are at 34%. Just a few more minutes, then I can move down. We have currently 71% female, 29% male. But the rate is still going up. And then we have, do you struggle with sleep? We have no at 67%. In the last year, have you dealt with a crisis? We have 78% with yes and 22% with no. I think the poll for question 4 is still coming in. The crisis I've dealt with led to a loss of. First one is life, the other one is job. We have income, we have family, we have health. Income as at 37%, 36%. Family at 20%, a tie with health. Family and health is at 20%. Job is at 16%, and life is at 7%. But the poll is still running. What helps you cope with a crisis? There's cognitive functioning at 3%, social support at 31%, behavioral adjustment at 15% or 14% now, spirituality at 45%. I typed choice 5, which was not there. And then we have you ever attended therapy? We have 71% at no and 28% at yes. Yes, that is the status. Let me just go back to the male and female. Female at 70%, male at 30%. Somebody is saying, please define a crisis.
All right, I will go to that, no problem.
And then, do you struggle with sleep? 65% said no. 36 are saying yes. And then in the last year, have you dealt with a crisis? Yes, at 80%. Has it led to loss of 35% on income? 21% on health, family and job at 16%. What helps you cope with crisis? We are still highest at spirituality. Have you ever attended therapy? We are still at 70% no.
Okay. Thank you for that, Grace. I really appreciate that support, and also for the participants for agreeing to take up the survey, because it tells us the picture on the ground. And as the question was raised, what is a crisis? And a crisis is when you're dealing with a situation that you feel is beyond yourself, that is unexpected, that was brooding and you could tell was going to happen, or sometimes is out of your own context. A crisis can be work-related, personal, from a personal perspective, from a social perspective, even from natural occurring disasters, as I think I had mentioned when I looked at the precipitating factors of a crisis. I hope that gives you clarity. Okay.
Yes, so we end the poll?
Yes, please. Thank you. So the results of the poll tell us when we are looking at, even when you're looking at mental health and mental distress, the people who are mostly affected and come for therapy when they're at the tipping point are mostly men. Okay? Because even the numbers here do tell us we have fewer men. So the ones who are not, who have not attended this session have missed out on an important, knowledge. They are going on with life with a gap there. When you're looking at the reason, question number 3, if you can read it out for me, Grace.
Come again?
Question number 3, if you can read it out for me.
Oh, I need to go back to
It's
the
okay.
poll.
I have pulled it up. I've pulled it up. Thank you.
Okay.
Dealing with a crisis in the last year. Yes, we have people who have dealt with a crisis here and there, and I can give you instances. We have had the maandamano. Maandamano did affect most of us in Kenya, and those who are not in Kenya, in one way, because of the inter-country relationship, you're still affected. We have had school fires and parents having lost their own children. That is a crisis on its own. We have had high living standards that one's economy is not, one's income is not able to meet. That in itself is a crisis that is building up. So yes, we have experienced a crisis in one way or another. In terms of what one feels that they have dealt with, what hits home, and this points out to the identity that we hold dear, is the income. Because if you don't have an income, somehow sustaining your lifestyle or meeting the needs of the people who depend on you is affected. So that in itself, I can understand why it's a big thing. But similarly, even when you have, family feuds, you have a diagnosis of a terminal illness, coming to terms with that, or when those news are broken to you, that can present a crisis between your knowledge of that illness and your feelings about that. So you go through a point of conflict as a person, all right? I've seen that spirituality has ranked high in as a support system on question number 5, when we are looking at what has helped people to cope with it, which is a good thing, but we also need to explore beyond spirituality. Spirituality forms a pillar of well-being, but beyond that, it's good to explore that, especially because we have a high number that have not attended therapy, and that's why we are here. We are here to offer you that support to strengthen your cognitive abilities, your emotional abilities, and even the choices you make after you face a situation. So we can proceed to see the precipitators besides the loss of income, work challenges? What are these other precipitators? And I have alluded to them in one way or another in the presentation. We have health and biological needs. When the Maslow hierarchy of need, you cannot skip the base and say you're satisfied at self-actualization, and there are some needs that are not met at the base. There will be a conflict. So biological needs, when they are not met, it will present a crisis, or it will lead to a crisis. When you have a rejection, when there's no acceptance, love, and belonging, that is a precipitator. Then relationship issues. Relationship can be intra, and inter. Intra with yourself, how you perceive, what you think, how you present yourself. That is intra. Everything to do with your identity. Inter is how you relate with things or factors outside yourself. Other people, how they make you feel, how you make them feel. If what they make you feel is more weighty than what you give them, then you might be in a cognitive or emotional crisis. When your goals and purposes and your purpose is not aligned, or it's not defined, or you're unsure what you're expected to do. And this can be due to communication challenges, lack of clarity. This is another indicator. When you're not able to meet your own needs, what we call efficacy. When your safety is in question, when there is history of abuse probably from home, from community, in a relationship, with from a parent to a child, in school, all this can lead one to end up going through that maturational crisis. When there's access to legal means, one can reason and know this will cost me. I probably am overdosing on prescripted medication, or I am self-medicating a pain or a discomfort I have within myself without undergoing proper medical checkup. That means that you're building a crisis for your own biological or your internal system. Exposure to someone who died by suicide. When we hear of, or we see, or it is talked about, it evokes thoughts that could be curiosity, that could be unanswered, that could be questions, and that remains in your subconscious. So even when we are talking about death by suicide, we should be very careful about who is around us, because children pick up on this and they internalize, they judge, they question. It forms part, most of those unanswered things. And later on in life, you could find someone ending up in this situation because they had a family member, a friend, or they observed it from a movie, So exposure to this is a risk in itself. So we are usually very careful, even when we are talking about death by suicide. One, we don't place judgment on it. And two, we should be careful. So we talk about it and we talk about the remedies for it. Then there is a lack of access to behavioral health care. There are people who become risky to themselves at that stage of a crisis because they have consumed substances. Now, with substance misuse, it becomes a medical condition, like alcoholism is a medical condition. And this person does require to go through rehabilitation. And rehabilitation is beyond going through detox. It involves also exploring what leads you to that, or why you don't have the capability to hold yourself from, consuming the substance. So behavioral healthcare is necessary. And it's important, even if you're going to a rehab, once you're out of it, to work with a therapist so that you can create accountability and they can help you to set your own goals, to have a form of purpose, beyond that. If there is a recent medical change, like amputation, diagnosis of cancer, even when we had of COVID, before we really understood it as with the research that has been exposed to us, that can cause a cognitive crisis to an individual. Then when there is no motivation, motivation can be because you don't get affirmed, you don't feel noticed, you don't feel that you can contribute. And in this case, people who have low motivation are struggling with psychiatrical challenges. That could be depression, and with depression, there's an aspect of low self-esteem. And low self-esteem leads one not to be productive, not to feel, to have the drive, no, and they don't feel safe within themselves and safe within the environment. So if you observe these precipitating factors, they are key to supporting someone or directing someone to seek support, either in a spiritual perspective, in a social perspective, growth financially, or even psychologically or medically. It's good to put yourself forward and present these options. What are the red flags? You will notice that someone has communicated the intent. So communicated intent to committing or ending or dying by suicide. This could be one day. I'll just give an example. Someone says, one day I'm going to kill myself. Or someone says to you, you're going to make me kill myself one day. Or what I have been through in my life makes me feel like I should die, or makes me feel like I want to die. That is communicated intent. Or someone saying, I'm going to drive and crash into a wall. Anything that you deem dangerous is communicated intent. And it can be directly to the person, can be to another person, or it can be wish. Then there are suicidal thoughts as a person. You feel overwhelmed. You start fantasizing or imagining ways of, actually killing yourself. Suicidal thoughts are thoughts that make you feel or even express that you're better off not in that situation. Let me tell you, tomorrow does need you. You might not feel useful. You might not see what you can be able to contribute at an impact today. But it is those small steps that actually bring or make the change. So look for the right support, express that I am experiencing suicidal thoughts. There are diagnosable conditions that can make you have suicidal thoughts. There are medications that can make you have suicidal thoughts. So instead of keeping quiet, withholding because you don't want to be judged, or because you cannot deal with the shame of what you have been through or what you have done, you end up harming yourself. It's not worth it. It is better for you to live and fight another day and talk of how you overcame so that you can be an encouragement to someone else. One of the key things that supports one's stability with mental health is knowing that they can actually support, they can be of use to someone else. So your story can be what is useful in changing someone around you, near you, close to you, known to you, or not known to you. And that will make you a hero. If you haven't been seen, if you haven't been recognized, fighting and getting past this thought and working with a professional will be what makes you a hero beyond the limits of your exposure or boundaries. Prior suicidal attempt, when somebody tells you that I overdosed, or when you learn that somebody was self-harming, or they intentionally wanted to end their life, that is an attempt to suicide. And I know we have advocated about revising the penal code when we look at attempts, suicide attempts. And when you come for medical support or psychological support, it is treated as a cry for help. So you don't end up getting criminalized because of being honest that you have attempted, or if you talk about or tell us of someone who's attempted, they don't get criminalized. We give them the right support. So prior attempts within the last 2 years means that the person is still in a period of crisis. So if you know of someone and within the last 2 years they have attempted suicide 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, however the number of times, it tells you that they're in a crisis. It's good to get to the bottom of it to understand, are they in a crisis because of maybe medication, you know? Are they in a crisis because they're dealing with a condition, a diagnosis? Are they in a crisis because they feel they are stuck, maturational wise? Are they in a crisis because they've experienced rejection in a relationship? Whatever the form, let's not minimize people's experience of problems. We need to be able to offer that support. Let me try and move on to the next slide. The next slide is on what you can do. I don't know why it's not moving. There you go. What can you do when you know that someone is suicidal? Because we are fixing the breaking point to suicidality. Now, this is very, very important. You know, the way you're told, learning is copied. We mimic learning. We encourage learning, we build on someone's ability to learn. So I'll go back to HRs. When you hire somebody comes with a certain skill set, the organization or where they are working does require them to continue building on their skill, to gain new knowledge. Grace has just mentioned that she's doing something on emotional intelligence. She has enough qualification, but this new knowledge does encourage self-mastery. So whatever the category you are in, if you're the one struggling with suicidality, it's good to think about how can I create self-mastery? And this is in your perception of self. Do you feel confident? Do you feel capable? What would it take for you to feel capable? What would it take for you to feel confident? What kind of support do you need? What are the things that you do that are different and unique that brings change in the world? So self-mastery is very important because it also builds on your skill in being resilient, in being able to deal with this situational crisis when they come. The second one is risk management. Being able to read the room and tell that this is risky or this is not healthy for me, or I feel a certain way, my boundaries are being violated. And so I need to be assertive. I need to avoid being in this environment because it's not productive for me. Risk management, even in the home. I talked of balconies that don't have protection. Knowing that it takes just that miscalculated move to end up in a fatal state. So risk management is quite useful even when we are looking at mental health. So risk management in terms of what do you do to take care of your brain or your thinking process, because that is what informs the body to function. What do you do to build on your emotions? Are your boundaries intact? Or do you find that you overgive and you are left empty? So sometimes you end up pouring from an empty cup and you beat yourself, In terms of behavior, is your behavior building the brand that you have set up, or is it taking away, chipping away from you? So that's on risk management. Then in terms of education, education is attending forums like this to get insight on mental health, on life, practical life functioning, or any other educative forum that can help you when you are faced with a crisis, for it not to go to the that stage. Okay, educate yourself. If it is a mental, if you've been diagnosed with a terminal illness, educate yourself, ask an expert what that means so that you know the right intervention, maybe for yourself if you're the one, or for that close family member. Educating, sharing stories. I've seen someone go through a distressful situation and they came up winners. That's education. And in Africa, education was passed down through tales. So that's why I say your story can be an encouragement. Or taking someone somewhere they can learn, it is an encouragement. It helps them to learn. Then intervention and motivation and treatment engagement. Once you are in a crisis or you've gone through a risky thing, there has to be intervention. There has to be motivation so that there is a change in behavior to functionality, and there has to be a treatment engagement. This can be medical, can be psychiatrical, can be psychological, can also be spiritual functioning, what you do to feed yourself spiritually, or it can even be physically, what you do so that you're physically up to the task. And then the last one is an encouragement for therapeutic approach. Now, on this point, I do tell people that your psychological well-being is not a luxury. It is something you should pay attention to. And the recommendation is that you should have mental health assessment twice a year, like the way you go for a dental checkup. Before you commit into a relationship, it's good for both of you to have a psychological assessment so that you know what are we going to be dealing with and how can I be equipped, not to change you not to be with that person, but to know how to support. Psychological assessment helps in ensuring that the person who is in distress or who is struggling get the right support, and you who is working with them or working with them knows the right support. So I encourage the 71% that has not had therapy to reach out to Hisia. We can move to the next slide.
You're the one with the slides.
Hey, I saw me. Next, please. There. So I talked of reaching out to Hisia. We do have mental wellness for corporates. We do have for individuals. We do have for family, for children. We offer a 360 approach to mental health where you have assessment, clinical support, psychiatrical support, and also coaching. And those are our contacts. So I will take questions that have been posted on the group. Grace, you can guide me on that.
Yes, thank you very much, Nancy. As always, you always deliver on these matters, mental health. And I think you answered Judy's question. How do you help a person that you know has a problem that needs attention, but refuses and works hard to convince you he doesn't need help without hurting them, of course?
So when we look at someone being a danger to themselves, they actually have lost the right to make the choice for what intervention they should have. Now, if you are able to establish, a therapist, or if you come to us, even if the person was not willing to go through therapy, we are trained to help them understand why we are doing the assessment and what they can do for them to have a functional life. Okay? So the best thing is to get the right support and direct them or bring them, and the therapist will put in the right intervention, because everyone has a right to life. So when you see them, over and over engaging in those risky behavior, they are violating that right. And we want to make it human for them to accept the support, to see the challenge they are going through, and to also build on skills of independence and flexibility.
You know, Nancy, there's a comment by my good friend Wafula. He's saying
Yes.
that, Caroline, it seems more challenging for me as a man to seek social support and therapy. Maybe you can comment on that.
Wow. I like the way he's honest, saying that from his perspective, it is challenging. Now, I would want to explore beyond just the comment to what makes him feel that it will be challenging. What would his expectations of coming for therapy be? You know, that way we can be able to help him pick on the problem that he can bring for in therapy. So expectation, someone feeling like their expectations are not going to be met, or having a failed previous therapeutic intervention can be a discouragement. I would encourage you, because we have male therapists, if you would like to speak to a man. And if you want to speak to ladies, we have enough professionals in the organization who are trained to help you explore that. And it's not shameful. We need to get over the stigma that has existed, that if you go for mental health assessment, there is something wrong with you. You don't have to have anything wrong to go for therapy. Therapy does help you to see what you're overlooking as you're aiming for something else. You could be, rolling in success and making strides, but there are aspects of your life that are getting neglected, that are building up, that will end up causing you to have crisis. If you think about it and you look at high executives in our country, there is statistics that indicate that they're having failed marriages, failed relationships. Why? Because they are unable to balance between the demand of work and the relationship needs. They overlook it. And relationship, remember, is intra and inter. Okay? So that's just an expansion for that question. We can go to the next, and I hope I've answered you and that you're comfortable. And we have our numbers there. Feel free to chat. Is there
How
any
can you,
other?
yes, how can you help someone with bouts of suicidal thoughts and negative thinking?
We acknowledge that that is a normal thing for the person to experience based on their mental state. So we will have to assess what is it about their mental state that is affected. Are they going through anxiety? Are they going through depression? Are they going through loss? Or are they under medication that makes them feel suicidal? So once we have established what the cause is, then there is behavioral and cognitive intervention. So you retrain your mind to forget or to overcome the need or the overwhelming factor. Remember, if you have hormonal imbalance, you will feel, you get into aggressive states, or you will be withdrawn, or you will not function well. So it is a multifaceted approach, but it's good. Self-awareness always marks the first stage to actually getting the right psychological support. So assessment always.
And how do you help someone who completely feels withdrawn when they should open up and seek help?
We talked of safety. They might withdraw because of that aspect, precipitating factor called safety. They do not feel safe. They do not feel safe probably because of certain experiences they have had with you, inconsistencies, or within the environment, even if it's not you. There are people who who come for therapy and say, me, I hate people. I don't like being around people, you know, because their encounter with the few becomes extrapolated to be their view of the world. So you would need probably to ask it in a different way. In what way can I be of support to you? Or I have noticed that you're struggling with ABCD. Or knowing you, and I remember, the experiences we have had. I see there is a gap in our relationship. Just anything that sparks an interest for them to have a conversation with you and for you to tell them, I've had you, but I'm not equipped to help you navigate the next, step. However, I would refer you here, or I would recommend, or when would you like me to take you? That is help more than enough for that person.
Yeah. And what do I
Mhm.
do if I'm worried about my mental health?
Reach out. Reach out. Mental health is affected by one, communication. If your goals and biological needs are not met, and if you're not clear on how to start and go about it, that can make you feel, incapable or can affect your mental health. So yes, everybody, the same way you won't go through 2 years without having a flu. Everyone is prone to mental health challenges. What we try to do is keep our mental health healthy. That is what we call wellness or stability. So there's nothing wrong with being worried about it, but you need to assess and understand what triggers that. What makes you feel that it is a concern now? Okay, and that concern, is it addressable from a personal perspective, from a professional perspective, or from a social perspective? Because we have to work intra-relationally.
Yeah. And Grace
Mhm.
says, how do you deal with a teenager who body harms? And according to her, it's a way of releasing stress and anger. Kindly share some insights. And this is appreciated.
Thank you for that question. Um, the teenager lacks capacity to deal with overwhelming feelings, emotions, or experiences. Now, remember, the changes a teenager is going through biologically, what we cannot see, is in a great rate. So, and that's why I mentioned most teenagers will have challenges of self-harm. And they'll self-harm even in a creative way. Someone can cut themselves in a structure of a tattoo, of a flower, or, any form of cutting. Some others will pull their hair, Others will pinch themselves. So whichever the way it's good for them, it's good for you to take notice, because one, it's usually a call for attention. It's good for you to take notice. It's good for you to affirm them. They have most of them internalize body shame, So it's good for you to affirm them. It's good for you to create opportunities where you allow the teenager to learn to be vulnerable and to share. So these opportunities can be you go on a date with your child or with your niece, nephew, whoever that is. Create opportunities where they can be themselves in the state of being a teenager rather than having to feel that they have to show maturity and look responsible, yet they're not navigating life in the process that they should, Engage them in play. Talk to them about your failures also, your struggles in one way or another, in a shallow way, not in a deep way, because we also don't want to overburden them. Talk to them, tell them, I've struggled forming relationship, I've failed here. Or I go for some business deals sometimes thinking that it's going to, materialize. And I get disappointed. However, I go back to the drawing board. Show them that life is just not about just being optimistic and achievement, that life has its up and down. That way you will be able to have created that safety, and they will step out of feeling like I need to solve my own pain. They may not share what they're experiencing because they feel you're incapable of handling their pain. So they feel that they are doing you a favor by not telling you what they are going through. Does it make sense? I hope
Grace,
that gives
let
you a
me
tip.
ask Nancy.
Yes,
Let me ask Nancy a certain question. How do you the people who use food or
yes,
shopping to
yes.
manage their stress? Comment on that.
That is the high, okay? And yes, there are people eat. When we look at food, we are looking at it being a pacifier. You're stimulating your orals. So that person will have issues with eating. They might have issues with indulging in substances, alcohol, anything that goes through their oral. Because they are trying what they are medicating, they are self-medicating by food to numb their emotions, okay, or to numb their feelings, or to get lost so that they don't face the reality of whatever their struggle is. Now it becomes an addiction. Okay. Remember, if you practice a habit of a behavior over a long time, it becomes a habit. And a habit that is reinforced and reinforced that is negative can be an addiction. Addiction takes you from being productive and your best self to being not being productive, so you overcompensate. Okay. So they have to take care of the physical need, the behavioral need, and the emotional need. But in being able to pick what is primary, that can only happen in a professional setting. For them to pick, I need to work on, first of all, maybe my emotions or the pain I have gone through or my expectations, you know, then I can address the weight issues or the health issues. Or I need to first address the health issues, then come to emotion. So we have to work in a multidisciplinary way. Now, there are conditions like, when you overeat, your body does require more sugar. And so, even when you are at rest, your body psychologically, you will ring that I need to eat now because the sugar state needs to continuously be increased. So, what habits can we introduce to help the body to produce this sugar? Because the body doesn't have enough fat store, which, through the process of burning, you can end up having that and retrain yourself. So it's a multifaceted approach to that, right? So the thing is, prompt the person to know that they can actually address whatever their struggle is. And instead of putting it and allowing it to sit in their belly, we want those emotions to move from their bodies, from their system, so that they create room for positive experiences.
Right. There are three questions on anxiety, but I think we
Yes.
can answer them through this example. I get anxiety attacks, and I once was involved in an accident because of the attacks. How do I help myself out of the situation? The other question is, how do I calm anxiety, and how do you deal with anxiety? So I think you can combine them.
Okay. So I'll marry all of them with anxiety. One, depending on the level, that's where assessment comes in. We need to know whether you're on mild, moderate, or severe anxiety. So mild and moderate interventions, psychological interventions would help. But when it is severe, you actually need to take medication that will help regulate your neurons or the way your body communicates. Okay. Observing whether you're taking food or a drink like caffeine that increases the heart rate. Exploring to see whether you have conditions such as high blood pressure. Okay. Also, walking back to when you first had your panic attack, whether you know what the trigger was, okay? Because with panic attack, the next time you have one, it's usually at a heightened state from the first time. And once you have had more than one panic attack, you have an anxiety disorder. Does that mean that your life is not functional? Your life can be functional if you seek the right support. So gymming or doing exercise, grounding, yoga, anything you do, reading spiritual books or reading normal books, breathing exercise would help with restoring the body back to homeostasis or to a balance. But beyond that, internally, in terms of thought, in terms of biologically, those interventions can only come from a medical practitioner. So you might have been resourceful, because I know a lot of people are able to search on ways and means of grounding yourself. What is a good step? Okay. But over and above that, when anxiety attacks are common, it means the triggers are also quite a lot around you. So what do we need to change around you, or how can we influence your environment to be supportive to you, that you don't end up feeling overwhelmed?
That's true.
So, yeah.
As we finalize this, is overthinking a mental health crisis?
Wow. Well, is it overthinking constantly? Is it a habit you have of overthinking? Like you would overthink about every other situation, because we have conditions called obsessive compulsive disorders, which are mental health conditions. Um, you could overthink because you're anxious or you're fearful, or you feel there is danger coming. So yes, it is a challenge. I would call it a crisis. It is a challenge that can lead you to a crisis.
That's true. There's a very
Yeah.
long message here from Esther that I need to read before I read it out to you. But as I figure out what Esther is saying, we can answer this one that came to my inbox. Negative comments and insults really put me down. They keep popping in my mind way later, and I feel so bad. How do I overcome this feeling?
I like that question because it points to the person's self-esteem. Okay, what other people think about them really does affect them, and it is based on how they have been raised, what we call conditioning. Okay, your self-worth at this point is what is that question, because you're basing your self-worth on the world. Now remember, we talked about building your own capacity, your skills. Okay, you first need to feel capable. You first need to feel healthy, and to present that. It's not someone else's perception view of you that will make you whole. Wholeness has to start from internally. So we would have to really work on your identity, on your self-esteem, on your self-worth, and build it. And you have a lot of capability, because right there, you can tell, I feel this way. You can tell the emotions and the cause for those emotions. So you're quite capable. However, how do we stop them from being very, pronounced in your life? And, that is a personal approach that will come in therapy. It's not a universal solution. I wouldn't say this is what you need to do, then you're okay and you're out of it. It's not universal. It is personal. We have to walk through your life journey. How was it? How have you matured? What stages, what are your achievements? Where do you feel you did not achieve, And where you feel you did not achieve, how did it affect you? But how are you here, even if it affected you? So that we don't focus only on failures, okay?
Right. And so the question is, how would you help someone who has never healed from grief? Grieving a loved one who died of suicide.
Mm.
which ngoja. A loved one, and the cause of the depression was triggered by close relatives. After the death, fundraising, they fundraised in the name of the dead, pretending to help the vulnerable bereaved family. Then they split the money to themselves. No coin was handed over to the dead person's immediate family. To make it worse, they destroyed records and to hide the evidence. It's hard to forgive these toxic relatives, and communication was cut completely with them.
All
So
right.
do you agree? Yeah.
I like the question, and thank you so much for having the courage to share and even ask that question. I'm trying to see when we talked about causes of crisis, so that I can place it and answer it relevantly. Remember, we looked at a crisis can be situational, it can be cultural or societal. So right here, we are dealing with this crisis from a cultural perspective. And I can tell that you're angry, and then you've isolated, and then you've not gone through the stages of grief. And when you go, when it's past 2 years without reaching acceptance, then we look at it as complicated grief because there's a sense of unfairness or injustice that you feel happened. And there could be also a signing of blame, blaming yourself or blaming yourself or blaming the person who committed suicide or blaming the society. And this can be as much as it is real and we acknowledge the pain is real and that has been your journey. It could block you because it is misplaced. It can block you from living healthy. Grief is a natural process of life. The same way you will say, you cannot say, I'm living without breathing. Okay? So long as people are born, they will always be dead. So eventually you need to get to a point, and I would be very happy to work with you to help you get to a point where we accept the death. Even if it was suicide, we need to reach to a point where we accept that this person did actually die. And I tell people death is death. Whether it was because somebody caused it to you, you caused it to yourself, an illness came to you, death at the end of the day is death, regardless of the mode. So that is a fact that we cannot run away from. So when we are able to accept that this person did die, then we would have enough room to educate the family members or even to form relationships that do support you to thrive. Okay. You don't have to continue feeling attached to the family if it is not useful for you. Remember, family can be related to you by blood, or you can form your own family. Okay. So peace, as I said, building yourself or growth has to start from an internal point, then you can project it outwards. So feel free to reach out because this is a loaded question, and we can figure out, how to navigate that. Okay. And thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. Sorry for your loss.
Richard, are you done?
Yeah, thank you very much. That was a pretty intense discussion, and we appreciate you, Nancy. Thank you so much. I'm sure you helped us all, where I'm included as well, because I picked very beneficial points from your time of discussion. Thank you so much. God bless.
Karibu sana. Asante sana, Richard.
All right. So I believe we have answered. We've tried to answer as many questions as we can. I don't think we've left any actually. So thank you very much for joining us. Please, Nancy, give us your parting shot. You're on mute.
So mental health is a personal responsibility as much as it is a collective responsibility. Without health, we are not functional or we are not productive. So the brand you're building yourself to becoming, let mental health be the first thing that you pay attention to. It is an investment. The same way you have savings, pension, plans, goals for learning, mental health should also be part of your goal. So I'm willing and looking forward to helping you address whatever challenges you might feel, ambition you might have in life, or support in terms of knowledge so that you can extend it beyond this forum or beyond your workplace, beyond your family. Asanteni.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It's always a pleasure to have you. We always learn with you. We always get to understand more about our mental health, and just to be able to understand how to support others. And I like what you said about education. I think discovering and seeking to learn and understand, and sometimes also being careful about the information that you're seeking out, also is something that we really need to get to practice. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, our audience, for being here. Please join us on our WhatsApp group, which is Get It Right with the Tara Solutions. We are here every Tuesday from 8 p.m. Discussing different matters. So keep it, Get It Right with the Tara Solutions for more. If you have missed any of our sessions, actually, for the person who was talking about grief, we did grief, handling grief 2 years ago. You can also get that link on our YouTube channel, and you can go through it. Even last year, we still did a session on suicide. You can also go and catch up with that and see whether all this information can help you and the loved ones. You can also share with the loved ones, especially those who are suffering, and increase their knowledge and their understanding of whatever it is that they are going through. So thank you very much, our audience. Please join our WhatsApp group, and let's keep talking, be able to understand what's coming up next. And thank you, Catherine Sidandi. You do an amazing job as always. Richard, you are amazing. Thank you very much. And somebody was asking me, Grace, where did you go? And not because they missed my presence, it's because they missed my smile. That's it. So you have been doing an amazing job, and our collaboration has been working out. You still need to send me that flyer. If you're looking to learn how to be a public speaker, Richard is amazing at that. If you're also looking to do interview coaching, then you need to reach out to Richard, and he's going to coach you on how to ace those interviews. And of course, Nancy, it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you very much for being a guest, and our psychologist as well. We really value the knowledge that you share with us, and we hope that we can reach out to you more and more so that we can fix this nation. Asante sana, and see you next time. Our WhatsApp group link has been shared. I think Jacinta already did that. If you look at it, it's going to be somewhere on the chat. So you can click on that, and you will be able to catch up with us again. Oh yeah, here it is. It's on the chat. Please scroll up on your chat. So thank you very much. I'm sure you have saved a life today, Nancy, and I'm sure that people are at a better place. So adios, guys. See you next Tuesday. Richard is going to be on the desk next Tuesday. I'm in Kisumu. So we shall see you the other one. But thank you very much, and have yourselves a good night.